Hi, I'm Warren. Welcome back to this intermediate Power BI course. Okay, in this video, we want to start looking at the formatting we're going to use in our model. Now, you can do this at the end, so you could do all your visuals, you could do all the measures, build everything, and then look at how you want to format it. Or if you have an idea of how you want to format it, you can do it now and then do the building of the graphs and everything later. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take you through the process I use to get backgrounds like this one and to get little logos or icons. So what I normally use is I use something like Canva or maybe PowerPoint. So if you have PowerPoint, you can see this is the background I used in my report. And here you can see these are the little icons I used. So what you can do, you can go to Insert, you can go to Pictures here, and I normally look at the stock images. There are lots of websites that have free stock images. You always need to check that you're not using anything that has royalties linked to it. So make sure that it's free and can be used for commercial use. But if you go to PowerPoint, you should be fine. If you go to stock images, that's the image I used. But you can go through and you might decide to try and filter. You might be looking for something that's business specific, maybe something like this. You can go and choose whatever you want. I just went with that one. And then for icons, for the little logo, I went in here and I think I chose something like KPI, if I'm not mistaken, or chart, I think it was. And I went and chose one of these. So you can just click on the circle and you can click insert. That will then insert them into your Power BI presentation. You can then right click, save as picture. With the icons, I wanted a circle around my little icon. So here you can go in and you can do the formatting. So you can format graphic. You might decide you don't want to use the standard colors, but you want to maybe have a different color. You can go through and you can make it blue or however you want to format it. If you wanted to have a circle around it, you could go and grab a circle like this, for instance. You could send it to back, maybe not full, have no fill. You could get it nicely placed in the middle. You could hold down Control. You could click both objects. So I've got my little icon and the circle selected. You can right click and you can group the two of them together. So now it's like one object. And you can go save as picture. And then save it to a folder. So that's what I did. I got my background and I got my little icon. I put a ring around it and saved them both as pictures. So that's what you can do. You can see in my folder here, I've got an images folder where I've got the background and I've got my logo. That's where I saved them to. So now when you are in Power BI, you can go and import that as your background. So we've got nothing on our first landing page. We can go through. I just want to check that I've got my folder active there. So here I want to use it as a background. So we can go to the formatting option here. We want to use that image as a background. So you can browse for an image. I can go into images here, choose that as my background, and I can open it. Now you can't see anything as yet because of the transparency. So if you're going to have a navigation or something sitting on top of this image, you might not want it to be at 0 transparency. You might want to set it at like a bit lighter that, you can see the objects that are on top of it. But in this case, it doesn't look too bad when it is actually the 0 transparency. And here you have different options, normal, fit, and full. Depending on the dimensions of your image, here you can see it's leaving a gap at the top. you might want to just play around with these and choose how you want it to be in. So this is actually only taking a portion of it. When I go fit, you can see it's got the entire picture in. I actually just prefer using the normal, so that's filling up there. So I'm happy with that. I now want to put my logo in the corner. So all we want to do now is we want to go to Insert. I want to grab that image, grab my logo that I created, and I want to size it and put it in the corner. Can't remember what the size was of my original one, but I think you can go and change the size here under General Properties. You can choose the height and width here. So I think it was 130 if I'm not mistaken. And 145, make it a bit wider. You can highlight it and type over if you don't want to click a million times, but there we go. We've got our little corner logo, so that's looking quite good. What we do want to do, we want to put a title, a header across the top here, so you can grab a text box whenever you want to put headers in. I normally just put it, you can see that red highlighting, I put it right against it, and then I grab it and I maybe don't make it the full length because we want to have our little information button there. And here you can type in what we call our company, KPR Consulting Services. You can put in the title that you want. You can highlight that. You can make it bold. You can choose the font you want, maybe 40, something nice and big. I can't remember what I did on my original one, but I think it was around that. And we probably want to center it. So there we can center that. You can see now the back of this is about the right size. I'll probably move that across a bit. And here we want to put another button because we want that information button. So we can go to buttons. We can go to info button. Let's move it to the corner there. We can drag and drop it into this corner. And we can maybe just make it the same size. So that's going to be our info button to our info page. We can now drag that and put it right against the info button. And we might want a second row of text. You can either have that in the same text box or you can add another text box and maybe put in here, we do reporting. I don't know, some tagline. Reporting. And again, highlight that. Choose your, maybe that we won't do bold. I don't know, maybe just make it smaller. Center that. And we want to drag and put that underneath here, for instance. So that fills up that entire space. Maybe make it a bit wider. That takes up that entire space. Now again, you don't have to have the background as white. You can have it as see-through if you want it. You can play around with the reporting on that. I sometimes leave everything white until I've got my spacing perfect. And then I go and I look at the formatting of everything. So I just want to go back onto my notes here to make sure that I've covered everything I want to cover here. If you want to look at the formatting options of each of these, you select the option you want to look at and you can go through the properties here. So here you can look at height and width, you can look at position, padding. You can look at a title. If you want to show a title, we just put in text in, so we wouldn't want to show a title. You can look at the effects. You can make it transparent like that if you want. If you want to show the background, you might want to make it just a bit of a lighter shade like that. I think what I might do is actually have it see-through, totally transparent on both of these, and then maybe change the text color to something like white, like that. And then you can see the image. So that looks quite nice. So there we have our home page. When you want to rename the home page, we can just double click down here. We can call it home. Whatever names you put on these tabs are the names that are going to show in your navigation. So you want to name them nicely. This info, we're going to link to our info page. So what we can do now, I'm not going to have this background on every page, but if you wanted to, you could just duplicate this page and then use this background for the background of all your pages. I'm not going to do that because it's a bit busy, but that is an option that you could do. So what I normally like to do is, instead of redoing the headings and the icons and everything on every page, I just duplicate. So this here could be called our dashboard. And then here, if you want to get rid of the backing here, you can just go to canvas background, and where we have our background JPEG, you can remove that. Now, because our title was in white, you can't see the heading, it is still there. But what you can look at is themes. So if we're looking at themes of our report, you can go to view, and these options here are different colors you can have across all of your pages, across your entire Power BI model. So we currently are on this one here, but you can go through and you can play around. And this would actually change the colors of all of your graphs, your headings, everything. But just to go into like a darker format, I'm choosing that one now. So now we can see our writing. So now, if we create a new page, it comes up with a dark background, just because my theme is dark, but I quite like that dark theme. So here we have our logo. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to make this logo button always take us back to the home page, because we want this to be our back button. So you click on the button on the image. You can see here under image, there's action. We can click that action option on. What do we want it to do? We want it to do page navigation, and the destination page is home. So now, if you click on it, nothing happens. In Power BI Desktop, you have to hold down Control and click to do the navigation. In your published version, it will just be click. But often, you want to be able to hold Control and click on multiple things. So it can get a bit tricky when you're doing that, but you need to hold down Control and click. So there we can see, we can navigate back to home. We have our headings here that we can update, and here's our information button. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to duplicate this again, and I'm going to call this info. That's going to be our info page. And what we want to do, we want to, when we click on this button, we want it to take us to the info page. So we again go to action, under button, we switch it on. What do we want it to do? We want it to do page navigation and to take us to info. So if we hold down Control and click on that, it takes us to info. If we click back, we go back. On our dashboard, we want to update this button. So we're going to go action on, page navigation to info. So we can check that. That takes us to info. That takes us home. If we're on our dashboard, that takes us to info. And here you could put anything you want. You know, you could put a text box for all your queries. Email me at Warren at whatever the email address is, .com. And you could put your personal phone number or phone me on, and you could put in your phone number there. And that could just be like an info page for them to get hold of you. Now, the reason that I did these two links on this page is when we now want to go and create all our other pages, we don't have to go and redo those links. It's already carried the action across with it. So it just saves a bit of time to be able to copy and paste and not have to keep going back and redoing the actions on these images and buttons. So we're going to have a sales page. So this we're going to call sales. And you can just drag it to wherever you want it. I'm going to duplicate that. We're going to have a product page. We're going to have a, I think it was a customer page, because we want to look at it in detail by customer, and we want it by store. And then we were going to do a self-service BI page. So we'll call that self-service BI. And then I'm going to drag my info to the end. And now you can see all of those buttons are connected. We don't have to redo that. So that saved us a bit of time. Now we want to add our navigation. So how do we do that? We go to Insert, and here under Buttons, Power BI has come out with this really cool feature. We had to normally do individual buttons with the navigation. They've now created a navigator, which is great. So you choose Page Navigator, and here you can see automatically it's gone and it's created all of these buttons, and you can see it's put in the different pages that we have on it automatically. So that's pretty cool. So we just make it a bit bigger. I don't like the square buttons. So what I normally do, I click on the navigator object, and then we can go to Shape. And here you have options. You can have a chevron, you can have hearts, you can choose whatever you want. I like the rounded rectangle like that. Or sometimes I use the pill option, which looks quite nice. So you can do that. Because we have our information button here, we might not want to show info here. So there is a way you can either hide or show options here. We can go into this. We can go to Pages. And here we've got Show All by default, which is on. We can turn that off. And we can go down to Show. And here we can choose what buttons we want to show. So I want to show all of them, but I don't want to show the info because we have the info button here. So there we have that. You can also choose what happens when you mouse over the buttons. You want to be able to highlight what you're mousing over. So when we click on that, we go to Style. And this is the default state. State means what state the button is. Are you on top of it? Is it selected? Is it deselected, etc.? So if you look at the state here, you've got hover, press, selected. So on hover, what do we want it to do? We want it to maybe make the text a bit bigger. And we maybe want the font color to be a darker color. And we want the fill to be a lighter color. So now when we go over, you can see it's making the text a dark font and the background white. And it's making the text a bit bigger. It's just a nice finishing touch to when you mouse over, you can see what page you're actually mousing over. So that's quite a nice feature. You can play around with that too. You can make it different fonts. You can also go to a state of when it's selected, like we're on the home page, maybe a selected one, you want that to be a bit bigger. So you can see home is getting bigger. You might want that to be, I don't know, a really dark font and the back to be maybe a light shading, for instance. So there you can see it's not white, it's shaded. And then again, to navigate now, you hold down Control and you click on Dashboard. That takes us to the dashboard page. To go back, you hold Control and click on the logo. You want to go to Product, there's Product. If you want to go to Info, you use the Info button. And there we go back. So there we've done our formatting. We've chosen our background image. We've created a little logo and we've added it to the top corner. We've done our information buttons. We've done our navigation buttons and we've done our titles. And we've gone and created all the pages with the linked navigation. So we can navigate between the pages. So what we'll do in the next video is we'll start doing the actual visuals themselves. So I hope you're enjoying this course so far, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.